Welcome to Maneuver Warfare, the card game, and thanks for your interest. Maneuver Warfare, the card game, puts modern warfare in your pocket. In this deck construction style wargame, players tailor their forces using an array of cards that put the weapons of today and tomorrow in your hands. This game also takes the maxim that war is a clash of wills and puts it directly on the table. You must drain your opponent's will and preserve your own to win. Let's start with the two types of cards used to play the game. The first are maneuver cards, which represent either physical combat forces or more intangible capabilities. Most maneuver cards are physical units, such as infantry, warships, and aircraft. Enablers are unique capabilities that can be attached to unit cards. Information cards are special units that are only deployed to the information domain, but which can affect the actions of you or your opponent in physical domains. Focus cards represent special abilities that your units can leverage for the entire game. They cost you a permanent investment of will, but their powerful capabilities are usually worth the cost. Finally, friction cards represent the chaos of war, allowing you to inflict the unexpected on your opponent at virtually any time. The second type of cards are your will cards. These cards represent an aggregation of all those factors and variables that constitute your faction's will to fight. The cards in your will deck drive all actions in the game. Your will to fight is always in flux. Your opponent will cause you to lose will during the game, but there are also ways for you to restore your will. Strategizing on how to keep your will to fight strong is a key part of the game. Additionally, the will cards also adjudicate the outcome of many different actions in the game. On the face of each will card are 4 numbers which represent fog of war, or the inherent uncertainty of conflict. These numbers stay hidden until you draw them to resolve an action. Together, you'll combine your maneuver cards and will cards to create a deck of 60 cards tailored to your strategy for destroying your opponent's will and winning the game. Additionally, unlike many other deck construction games, in Maneuver Warfare, you determine the exact order of the maneuver cards in your deck. This represents the detailed pre-mission planning that goes into any military operation. Aircraft carriers and stealth fighters don't just randomly appear in the real world, and so they don't in this game. With their decks built, the players come to the game table and set up the battlefield. Maneuver Warfare uses a semi-randomized terrain laydown, mirroring the real-world challenge that while you want to fight an opponent in a place where you have strategic advantages, you don't always get to decide that. Each player selects 3 domains that are suited to the deck they have constructed for the game, and the space and information domains are always on the table. But after that, several more domains are randomly drawn and laid down on the battlefield. The final part of creating the battlefield is randomly laying out domain variables on top of each domain card. Domain variables represent those unexpected external factors that can have unique impacts on conflict. With the semi-random terrain laydown and unpredictable impacts of domain variables, no 2 games of Maneuver Warfare look the same. Once the battlefield is ready, players draw for initiative and the game begins. Let's go through an example of one turn, following the blue player's actions. Step 1. Activate your will. Step 2. Expend will to discard cards from your hand or to draw new cards from the maneuver deck. Unexpected terrain and the actions of one's opponent will naturally cause a player to adjust what cards they want to deploy. This step is the player's chance to discard cards that are not immediately useful, as well as dig into their maneuver deck for capabilities that they need now rather than later. Step 3. Movement to contact. The active player now expends will to move units into position for combat. Step 4. Engagement. Both players now have the chance to initiate engagements, beginning with the active player. There are 2 types of engagements: long-range strikes and same-domain engagements. Step 5. Non-combat movement. The active player now moves any units across the battlefield that weren't moved during the movement to contact, as well as conduct humanitarian aid. Humanitarian aid is a key part of helping you recover lost will, as well as draining will from your opponent as part of the strategic narrative of caring for the victims of conflict. Step 6. Deploy new cards. The active player can now deploy new units from their hand. Step 7. In the final step of the turn, the active player checks to see whether their units control any objectives or key terrain on the battlefield, which causes their opponent to lose additional will, restores any of their units that were suppressed in combat, reconceals any exposed stealthy units, and reconstitutes any will expended on that turn back to the will deck. Gameplay then moves to the next player until one player reduces their opponent's will to fight to 0 and wins the clash of wills. Thanks for your interest in Maneuver Warfare the card game, and if you like what you see, you can pre-order the game through the Dietz Foundation's webpage.